Welcome to the NC Spin After Spin. Additional comments from our panelists just available on our website. John Hood, what do you wish you had said on last week's show, but you didn't?
We talked some about the budget and the dispute between the governor and the legislature, and I want to just add a few more facts about the budget itself. We have in past years had media and other attention on the revenue trends and expenditure trends. I haven't seen a lot of that this year. Perhaps people thought that because there wasn't a new budget and things were operating on the previous year's budget, there was nothing interesting happening, but that's not correct. Number one, the revenue is up. It's up pretty healthily over the first 6 months of the fiscal year. General fund expenditures are also about $300 million higher than last year. How can that be? Because, again, not everything was affected. There have been so many budgets. There have been some other expenditure changes. And so we are spending more money than last year, but revenue is going up faster. So for the first 6 months of the fiscal year, North Carolina General Fund has a little over a $500 million cash surplus. Now, you don't want to go spending that yet. Of course, we're not spending much of anything in new revenue because...
Even with the $300 million
yes,
more
because
in
revenue,
expenditure.
from last year. Both things have gone up from last year. But as far as where we are, how much money is the state taking in, how much is it spent, we're ahead of the game by $500 million. Now, you don't want to jump to conclusions because the second half of the fiscal year, including the tax payments in April, is a bigger part of the story. So maybe the story would change somewhat, but it seems likely that we will have another fairly healthy revenue situation. And of course, our expenditures are not going up as much as they would have if the budget had been enacted, the new budget had been enacted. And so when the legislature comes back and when they're contending with the governor's new budget proposal, there ought to be a way. I strongly believe they ought to make whatever deal they can on teacher pay. The governor will be disappointed with the number. The legislature may have to go up for a little bit further on the number. They have to make a deal on that, make a deal on everything else, leave Medicaid off for some future debate because it's not going to happen in the Senate, and move on.
Are we ever going to address infrastructure?
Some of the budget does. I mean, that's the point. There are hundreds of millions of dollars worth of capital projects in the budget. This is a reasonable thing to do. Some of this money is probably one-time money. They ought to spend it on infrastructure. And remember, there's been a debate also between the governor and the legislature about school construction. Should it be issue debt primarily or largely, or should it be pay-as-you-go? I think actually the current budget numbers strongly support the legislature's position. There is, in fact, as I said on the show, more than $2 billion in unreserved credit balance. There's some other things that they could do. They should be paying cash for some of these schools right now or construction projects right now. And then again, you can debate the debt later.
But when you stop and look at water and sewer systems and bridges and roads and so forth like that.
We can't spend the general fund dollars on roads and bridges per se.
I got that. But with borrowing costs as low as they are, this is a time to be, would you not agree, a time to be
I would
looking
if we
ahead
didn't have
to the future?
I would if we didn't have a lot of cash. I mean, it's fine to borrow money at a cheap interest rate, but if you already have the money in your bank account, it is foolish to even borrow money at a cheap interest rate when you can pay cash.
All right. Well, thanks for watching the After Spin. We'll have more video all during the week on ncspin.com.